He left me for his ex on our wedding day. So I married my boss and took everything back. I never thought the happiest day of my life would become the most humiliating. Standing at the altar in front of our families, friends, and every person who ever mattered in my world, I was ready to say I do. But he wasn't. Just hours before the ceremony, I got a message, one that shattered everything. It was short, cruel, and cowardly. I can't do this. I'm going back to Emily. Emily, his ex, the woman who had broken him, left him in pieces, and whom I helped him recover from. I picked up the shards of the man she discarded, nurtured him, believed in him when he didn't believe in himself. And now? Now he had the audacity to leave me on our wedding day to run back into the arms of the one who once destroyed him. For a while, I just stood there, numb. Everyone around me was whispering, eyes wide with pity. My mother tried to hug me, but I couldn't move. I felt like a statue, frozen in time, emotions trapped in a dam about to burst. And yet, something inside me whispered, this isn't the end. It's the beginning. I didn't scream. I didn't beg. I walked out of that venue with my head held high, holding back the storm that raged inside me. That night, I went home alone. I took off the wedding dress, folded it neatly, and placed it back into its box, not because I wanted to keep it, but because I wanted to remember how close I came to making the worst mistake of my life. I spent the next few days in silence. No social media, no phone calls, no replies to endless texts from people saying, I'm so sorry, or, I can't believe he did that. But I could believe it. I saw the signs. I just didn't want to admit them. The hesitations, the way he seemed distant lately, the fact that he never really cut ties with Emily even when he swore he did. I blamed myself for ignoring it, but I would never do that again. Then came the unexpected. My boss, Mr. Alden, called me into his office. He had heard about what happened, and instead of offering empty sympathy, he offered something else, an opportunity. I'm opening a new branch in another city, he said. I know you're heartbroken, but maybe this is the change you need. I accepted without hesitation. Within a week, I packed my bags, left my old life behind, and started fresh in a new place where no one knew my story. What I didn't expect was how close we would become. Alden, who I once viewed only as a demanding, distant executive, turned out to be one of the most thoughtful, emotionally intelligent people I'd ever met. We worked late nights, had deep conversations, and slowly, the walls I built around my heart began to fall. He never pushed. He never pitted me. He simply saw. We married a year later, quietly, intimately, no lavish celebration, just love, real, grounded love. And with him, I flourished. I took the pain, the betrayal, the broken pieces, and turned them into power. I led projects, expanded the company, and helped build a life rooted in respect and truth. Meanwhile, my ex, he came crawling back, not to me, but to everyone we used to know. Emily left him again, this time for someone richer, younger. His business collapsed, and word spread that he was desperate, aimless. Then came the icing on the cake, a gala, one of those charity events filled with polished smiles and whispered judgments. I was invited as a guest of honor. He wasn't supposed to be there, but he came anyway, probably hoping to network or maybe just to catch a glimpse of the life he threw away. When he saw me on stage, hand in hand with my husband, he froze. I saw it in his eyes, the recognition, the regret, the shame. He tried to approach me afterward, said, "You look happy." I smiled politely and replied, "I am. Thank you for helping me find the right path." And then I walked away. Because closure doesn't come from conversations. It comes from knowing you're no longer the person who would tolerate being treated like an option. In the weeks that followed, I found myself reflecting not just on what had happened, but who I had become through it all. It's a strange thing, the way heartbreak can transform you. Before everything fell apart, I was the kind of woman who prioritized others' comfort over my own boundaries. I'd smile through discomfort, laugh through disrespect, and forgive things I had no business forgiving. But now I was learning to stand taller, not out of pride, but out of peace. The love I now shared with my husband wasn't loud or showy. It was quiet, constant, and fiercely loyal. He never made grand promises he couldn't keep. Instead, he simply showed up, day after day, with honesty, with kindness, and with the kind of steady presence I had always longed for. And in return, I gave him all of me, without fear, without doubt, without having to pretend. But life has a funny way of circling back. Just when I thought the past was truly behind me, I got a call from a mutual friend. She said my ex was going around claiming I used him to get ahead, that I married up for money and status. I should have been angry. I should have been insulted. But all I felt was pity, because here was a man still trapped in the same cycle, still blaming others for choices he made, still unable to see the blessing in his own loss. I didn't respond to his accusations publicly. I didn't try to defend myself. I didn't need to. My life spoke for itself. The business I co-founded with my husband was thriving. Our employees were respected and well paid. We gave back to the community, mentored young entrepreneurs, and created a workplace culture rooted in integrity. I had rebuilt, not just a career, but a legacy. And most importantly, I had found joy, not because someone gave it to me, but because I learned how to cultivate it from within. One day, my husband surprised me with something small, but deeply meaningful. It was a framed photo, not of our wedding, not of our business, but of me standing at the podium during that gala, smiling with unapologetic strength. At the bottom, he'd written, "She rose, not because she was unbroken, but because she chose to rise anyway." I cried when I saw it, not because I was sad, but because I finally understood just how far I'd come. I had been abandoned on what should have been the most magical day of my life. I had been betrayed, mocked, and left with nothing but a ruined dress and an empty future. And yet, here I was, not just surviving, but thriving, not just healed, but whole. And perhaps the most unexpected blessing of all was the message I received from a young woman months later. She had followed my journey quietly through social media and had seen how I handled heartbreak, how I rebuilt myself with grace instead of vengeance. She wrote, "I was going to cancel my wedding after my fiancé cheated, but your story gave me strength. I left, and I'm starting over. Thank you for being brave enough to share." That message broke me in the best way, because if my pain could become someone else's roadmap to healing, then it was never in vain. Her message sat with me for days, not because I thought I had done anything extraordinary, but because I remembered how alone I had once felt, how utterly consumed I was by the shame of being left, the embarrassment of having my love story collapse in front of everyone. If even one person felt less alone because I had chosen to share my truth, then every tear, every sleepless night, every moment I thought I wouldn't make it, it was all worth it. Healing isn't linear. Some days, I still flinched at unexpected reminders. A certain song, a place we once visited, or even just the scent of a cologne he used to wear would catch me off guard. But those moments no longer defined me. They were simply echoes of a life I had outgrown, a chapter one had closed with grace, not bitterness. As for my ex and his ex-fiancée, well, life has a way of teaching lessons in its own time. Word eventually got around that the two of them didn't last. Their business failed within a year, caught in a spiral of mistrust and poor decisions. And him? He reached out to me once, a long, rambling message full of regret, apologies, and a strange request to meet, just for closure. I stared at the message for a long time, not because I was tempted to reply, but because it was the first time I truly felt nothing. No anger, no sadness, no longing, just peace. I never responded. Some stories don't need sequels. Some wounds, once healed, should never be reopened. My silence was not revenge, it was self-respect. Meanwhile, life kept blossoming. My husband and I traveled, laughed, and built a home that felt like sanctuary. We hosted dinners for friends, held charity events, and even started a mentorship program for young women navigating career transitions. But above all, we lived simply, lovingly, and honestly. And each time I looked in the mirror, I no longer saw the woman who had been left. I saw the woman who had risen, not just in success, but in strength. A woman who had chosen herself over and over again until it became second nature. I often get asked now, how did you do it? How did you survive something so cruel? And I always smile, take a breath, and say, because I finally realized I didn't need anyone to choose me, I just needed to choose myself. That's the thing about heartbreak. It feels like an ending, but it's often a beginning in disguise. And once you stop chasing the door that closed, you might just find 1,000 windows opening. I didn't just rebuild a life, I reimagined it. And in doing so, I learned that sometimes, the most painful goodbye is the one that frees you the most. Today, as I sit by the window of our quiet home, sipping coffee and watching the sunrise pour gold over the city skyline, I think about that girl who stood in a wedding dress, betrayed and broken. I want to reach back through time and wrap her in my arms. I want to tell her, this isn't the end. This is the fire that will forge you. Because it was. That betrayal, as cruel as it felt, was the catalyst for everything beautiful that followed. If I hadn't been left standing at that altar, I never would have found the career that fulfilled me, the love that embraced me, or the version of myself that no longer lived in fear of being abandoned. I am not someone's afterthought. I am not a backup plan. I am not a second choice. I am the storm and the calm after. I am the story worth telling, not because it's flawless, but because it's real. There's an incredible kind of freedom that comes with letting go of what hurt you without needing it to apologize or make sense. I stopped asking why you did it. I stopped searching for reasons. I started focusing on healing. I started learning that my worth was never dependent on someone else's ability to see it. And the greatest plot twist of all, I didn't just survive, I thrived. I turned heartbreak into horsepower. I turned shame into success. I turned rejection into redirection. And now, I walk with a grace that no one gave me. I earned it. I bled for it. I rose for it. So, to anyone out there feeling shattered, humiliated, left behind, please hear this. Your story isn't over. The person who couldn't see your light didn't dim it. They simply weren't meant to walk beside it. And when you finally look back at all the tears, all the pain, all the nights you thought you wouldn't make it, you'll realize something powerful. It all led you here, to this moment, to this strength, to this clarity. And you will thank the universe for the pain, not because it was fair or deserved, but because it woke you up to who you truly are. And that's the story I want to tell, not just mine, but maybe yours too. If you're in the ashes, please know, you can rise. If you're in the silence, know that your voice still matters. And if you've been left behind, understand this. You are only being redirected to something greater. I promise, because I was there. I saw the wreckage. And now, I'm living proof that you can build a palace from the pieces. This is not a fairy tale. This is not fiction. This is real. And this is yours to claim. So pick up the pen, turn the page, write your next chapter, and make it the most powerful one yet.